Please let me know if you don't hear from the back, so I will try to speak. So I did this one 6 months ago or 7 months ago. It's the first time that you see. Did someone did see my talk that I did at the beginning of the year? Great. One person. So maybe you know that I am very like clicker, and don't worry, it's a fast one. I only have more than 100 slides for you all today. So, the idea is that we will have a conversation. I will try to share. So, I always put at the back, at the bottom here, like the reference. But the idea is that we have a continuous conversation, and you get the phases versus, okay, what is that? So the idea is that you get the ideas, and we move forward. Okay. So. Oh, no, that happened. OK, great. First of all, thank you for all the sponsors. Without them, this would not be possible. So, and from there, who am I? So, I am Aleix. I am doing consultancy on what I will share today. So, I'm talking about my book. I will start by read a little about where I come from, so you understand why I landed here. So, I started in a startup in Barcelona. It's the mobile boom in Barcelona. We're a small startup, we start, and people say, Aleix, you need to decide the strategy of the company. No clue, my second job, okay, let's search the books, what is right and what is a good strategy. So we came up with this. So our strategy is lean, we will innovate for our clients, creating mobile web applications using domain-driven design, continuous integration, and test-driven development using a Scrum and blah, blah, blah. I handle that to my teams, and they say, looks good to me. We stayed with this strategy for a year because I read on the internet that the strategy is at least 1 year to 3. So don't hold it, we cannot change it. 15, with the retrospective, it didn't work. Let's improve it. Our strategy is agile, we will continuous delivery, testing, and AWS, cloud. People say, yeah, the news people is doing that, looks good to me. It was not working, and eventually we sold the company because it was not really working. So people is like, I'm putting buzzwords, and why people were buying this thing? Because we didn't know. So I move on, and I was this person like, I do genius decision like Homer's doing squeezing the orange over here. It's like, okay, that was me trying to do a strategy. I started moving, and like, let's learn from others versus me trying the hard way to do this. So I moved to Domain Design Europe, I met people, I go to ThoughtWorks, I started to learn. After some years of pain and learning from others, I will go to 2020 and I recovered say, okay, let's relearn a strategy from what I know now. So today, I am the person talking about the orange to you, about what I learned. So I started with, okay, I don't know what is a strategy, I want to know what is not a strategy. And there is a book called Good Strategy About the Strategy that says this, that bad strategy is not a lack of a good strategy or no strategy. It grows out of misconceptions and so on and so forth. Things like a fluff, like hype words, like nowadays it's ChatGPT, blockchain, Kubernetes, you name it. Failure or face challenge, making good strategies, bad strategy objectives. I was reading that, I was just hitting my ego straight to me, and I was like, oh, I was doing all these mistakes. Over the years, I add 3 more points, which is, it's not a plan. And when you hear strategic planning, run away. It's not a static. I was holding the strategy a year because someone said so. And it's not top-down nor bottom-up. It's something that you learn how to navigate through, and we will see why. So that's not a strategy. So what is a strategy instead? So I started learning, and I came to this person. Do you know who is this person? So I read the book, and it says that you have leadership, purpose, landscape, doctrine. No clue. And say, when the enemy is relaxed, make them toil. When fools serve them, then set them, make them move. Okay, I have an issue in production. What the hell? I cannot connect them both, right? So people name him a lot, but I am unable to understand how I translate this doctrine into my world. So I said, okay, that doesn't work. This comes from Warley Mapp's person. And he says that even though you come from Sun Tzu, indeed you have 2 whys. So what is the why in a strategy? There is the why of purpose, so why we do things. And then based on this why, the Y of movement, which is based on this context and this purpose, what I choose this over that. So it's a decision. So you have two Ys here. In chess, the Y of purpose is I will need to win. And the Y of moving is if I move the horse over there, it's check, but then the other moves. But if I move the rook, it's checkmate. So you see the purpose is over there, but the Y is more advancing. So at least there are two, Y of purpose and Y of movement. Okay. And Warley also says that the faster you do this cycle about you understand the purpose, you make a choice, you learn, you do it again, the faster you learn. So this, when I came to this, like, oh, I don't need to wait a year to receive feedback and improve my strategy. I can do this every day, week, month. As soon as you learn, I improve. Wow, is this agile? Mind-blowing. So I had this, it's interesting, but I didn't connect like agile with this. Like, oh, I can apply the same things I do in methodology to a strategy. So why not? I wasn't able to connect the dots until this obvious person said me this. Like, so a strategy is a set of decisions based on imperfect information to overcome a high-stake problem or whatever. So it's decisions based on imperfect information. We cannot know everything. But as we learn, we can make more decisions. So the important part is that we know our purpose and we move. Without movement, we don't learn. So, and then what is engineering strategy to us? Anyone can guess? Is the decisions that we make or we approach the high-stake business challenge from an engineering perspective. So at the end is, in the first one I showed you, did you see any business-related statement there? No business connection. It's not a good engineering strategy because it misses the connection with the business. So when the engineering strategy is always approaching the business needs. And that doesn't mean sales or marketing, it's the business as a whole, as a product. So that was the first thing I mistaken, that I wasn't able to connect what I'm doing with how it impacted the business. And now is one of the needs. And then I learned from which are the principles. So the books that I read from strategy from way back focus more on plan, do, perspective, I don't know, documenting a lot, and then said, no, you can do it differently. You can apply the agile principles to engineering strategy, which is anticipate and explore, and adaptive, driven by value, with engineering at core, because we are doing engineering strategy in this case, and communicate first and document later. But document, folks. Please, we need to have a backlog about why the decisions were made, because the past matters. There we go. The strategy is the design and the execution. How many of you heard like everything about execution, or execution is strategy by breakfast, or anything like that? So who heard this thing? So most of you, right? So when you split both, you have a problem, which is you have the thinkers in one side and the doers in that side. You guess what? Anything much. If these people nails it, it's because that people did a good job. If these people fail it, it's because they didn't understand the strategy. It's a lose-lose situation. It doesn't make sense. But the thing is that if the people that designs and executes and has this feedback is the same people, you have a way better way to have feedback and improve the outcome. Here you can mean, oh, then it's the team who does this, or not. Maybe it's leadership who does this, or not. It's blurry because depending on the situation, the people involved in the strategy is a mix of teams and people around the organization. It's not fixed. It's not a box that you're like, you do this. And this is one thing that I learned recently, that there's two types of strategy, deliberate and emergent. And that's what I was failing at. So when you have deliberate is when you have the intentional, it's formal, we want to do this, but it's based on, assumes the future and the fact when it needs to be true. In order to this strategy to be true, we need to do this. But when you start executing, what happens? Reality and theory doesn't match. That's why emergent strategy is important, because when you move, you learn, and you have a new strategy emerging from that learning that you start applying. That's the important part of feedback loop. So, complexity. How many of you complain weekly about this is complex, this is complicated? This is our world. We are all the time with complex systems. I think we are the only industry that complain about complexity. All of the other assume it and just move along. We keep complaining about it. Like, it's complex. Like, yes, it's the nature. I will explain you in which context engineering strategy works and which one it doesn't. Do you know Cinefin framework? Some people, yes. Okay. So for the ones that you know, this person, which is Snowden, defines complexity or the framework as 4 areas that are obvious, which means that A to B is best practice. We know it. How to deploy this? You do it. That's it. The other is the complicated. Going from one point A to B, it takes time. But there is a domain expert around us that knows how to do this. It can be in finance, how you do this, or deployment. There is people that exist that knows how to do this, even though it's complicated. And then we move to the complex domain, which is from going to A to B, no clue how it's done. We don't know it. The important part here is that we cannot force ourselves like, yes, that will be the situation. No. We need to do a lot of emerging practices. We need to prove. We do the experimentation and so on and so forth. The chaotic is nothing is related. It's chaotic, no clue what is going on. So the only thing that you need to do here is do things fast, because even trying to know what is working, it will not work. So I don't know what happened to you, that sometimes we overcomplicate an obvious domain and it becomes chaotic. It's only Scrum, just do this and we'll work. And then boom, chaos, everything is ruined and everyone is lost, right? So in obvious, we just execute. It's not a suite for this. Complicated is where we are as a developers most of the time. We are in a complicated domain. By putting effort, by talking to domain experts, we will probably reach that point even though it takes time. But when we talk about complex domain, and you relate to engineering strategy, you cannot know what is going on. So the only way to work in that domain is doing experimentation in parallel. The faster you try things, the faster you will know which one is what that works. So engineering strategy works in these 2. Don't do strategy in this button, okay? Because people say, why do we need a strategy when you're in this domain? True, you don't need it. In this one, yes, start making sense. Of course, in this one, don't do strategy in this one, okay? Because here the important part is that you move from chaos to another domain. So now you know iterative, immersion, where to apply it and where to not, where I'm going. Well, I'm going super fast. Now I will take it more calmly. So how do we design and execute a strategy? What it consists of? Purpose and context. If you know where you want to go, but you don't know where you are, but we don't know what will come from. So we still have the frame, which is like this purpose and context. And we start understanding the situation with the diagnosis. We can use things like theme topologies, domain-driven design, architecture, whatever tools we have to understand what is going on in our organization. From there, understanding our situation, we will come with a direction for the people. Like, we want to go in this direction. And here, the important part is clarity. So I found too many times that, oh, we need to make it accessible for the whole organization. Therefore, I make it oversimplified. The strategy doesn't need to be simple. It needs to be, we need to give you clarity about what it needs to be done. Even though it's hard. I mean, we are doing hard things. Don't try to oversimplify because then it will be faster. No, it is hard. So, but make it clear. And it is there are bets and objectives. So are decisions that we think that will work, but we don't know. We assume failure, but that's because they are bets. So the main thing is we are in a constant failure mode until something works. Okay? And then we have the coherent actions, which are connected to direction, need to impact, and usually are led by teams in some degree, and the teams who are, we need to say. What I found is that sometimes it's hard when the direction is somehow clear. People want actions, but there are hidden agendas. We need to do this, but they want to learn some technology, therefore I force it to fit it. And I argue why. So why I say coherent is not an action, it's coherent action, because it is coherent to everything else. And here it's more easy to know, like, hey, what you're proposing here doesn't connect with the previous things. Can you argue why? That's why they need to be coherent. So, and here's when I want to spend the most of the time, which is, let's see, I would like to make a little pause because I'm going super good Now we see all the theory, and I will see 2 real practices. I would like to stop and have 5 minutes for questions before I continue. And please feel free to make that. I'm that good that no one has a... Yeah. I will give 2 more seconds until the person has everything inside, like no clue what this guy is talking about. Yeah. Okay, and continue. Great. 2021. I joined a company here that at least one person in that company is in the room, and I mean pressure. So this is when I started in this new company. I started as an engineer manager, and they give me, during interviews, like, okay, what is the challenge? And they say, we want you to help us to mature the engineering team, because we have some challenges in delivery and so on and so forth, but we are agile, we do a smart thing and so on and so forth. And I put the first experience with that company as where did I join, or where the hell I joined, right? And that was the purpose. So I start with the purpose. You need to help engineering department to mature. It's a good purpose. It gives me direction. I know what it needs to be done. So, and then I received the context, which is 2 of the 3 products are in private beta. The 3rd is frozen. It's not in production. They are being developed for more than a year. No expectation in the short term of delivery of any of those 3 products. So no expectation so far. They didn't tell me that before. They told me that later. And it's like, okay, we have this problem. We have 3 products. They are in constant delivery. We don't know where it will be released. Can you help us with this? So help engineering department mature, cross, release this. Okay, that was the reality. Okay. So when I joined, I did the mistake about joining an organization. Look for clues that fits my beliefs about what needs to be right. It means that if I join, I'm like, okay, let's search for, they don't use event-driven. They don't have tests. You are biasing yourself, right? But you need to understand where they come from before you starting biasing and having assumptions, because these people work hard, they have a context, and you don't have anything. So knowing where you start is as important as knowing where you're going. So I focus on understanding first what was the context. And here was the thing. I start looking at architecture. When something arrives, pinball, request, okay, resolve. If this fails, everything fails. And then finding what is going on, it was super hard. You see this, and you say, oh, distributed monolith. That's it, that's why they don't release distributed monolith. No, hold. Yeah? Okay, distributed monolith. And then you say, okay, let's dig more. What is made on? They say, okay, we have ports and adapters architecture. Okay, you start opening repositories, and the infrastructure is this big, the domain is that. You need to, like, what the hell is the business logic? And then you need to open like three repos, and then you go through one to another, like, okay, that's the user journey. And it's a spread across the thing. Okay, that's it, because they don't know how to do ports and adapters. No, hold it. And then you start asking, okay, what is the situation? Well, we have a high rotation, people leave, people joins, and also in leadership. This is interesting. When leadership change, people have their own beliefs, their own purposes. So they change purpose every time a new leadership comes. And that decision drives into all the teams. If that happens, it means that the first code base was with one purpose. Then you have a legacy, new purpose. Oh my God, I need to drive a new one. Okay, and then you're blocked because you're unable to fulfill the new purpose because you have a huge thing coming to you. Oops. There are no full stack teams. So I was in this meeting, it's like, well, I finished this thing in the backend. Now that's done by the front end, which is in another team. What? So you hand over between teams all the time things? Okay. Why is this? No, because this is mobile, this is this, we only do backend. Okay, understanding. So handoffs. Why is that? So they're between people and teams. Both teams is between the same team handovers. Okay, But between teams, it's a problem, because if you have 3 teams, and only one team is doing the front end, everything goes there, and that person has everything. It's huge. That person is probably in a burnout situation. Okay? So, knowing this, will you complain about this and that? No, I mean, these people have a hard situation, right? And Kanban maturity model. Do you know Kanban maturity model? Okay. This is interesting. So I thought when people in the interview start talking about the situation, I was placing them in team-focused, customer-driven. So panic management, on-demand capabilities, and shorter delivery times, or it was, okay, because it's not shorter, maybe they're here, so they work as a team, there are some delays. From the interview perspective, I was thinking that the people were team-focused. The thing is that I was doing engineering strategy based on that assumption. The more I execute, I discovered that no, it was in ML1, ML0. So lack of order, overburden, stress, manage individuals, heroics, and so on and so forth. What I was doing before knowing this, it was painful, because we were taking coherent actions based on a false assumption. We learn, we adapt. So when knowing this, we had the problem about distributed monolith. Ports adapters, that was not all the best. They were testing, that's correct. And then we had the 2 things, which was handovers and ML0. Knowing this, that's the question, where you will start?
Organizing the teams.
Teams. What is causing the things are the team's orientation. If you fix the architecture, but you don't fix the teams, you have a problem. So the direction was, we will create a new team from 0 with the practice and methodologies, and we will start small because there were a lot of pressure. So if you start with exposed to the leadership, you will have a lot of exposure. So you'll be under the radar, adding the maturity and then doing the next thing. So we start a new team, that team is full stack, end-to-end, so there are no more handovers, and we will reduce accidental complexity. So knowing that and knowing the coherent actions, we did some bets, which was isolate the new team into the last important product, because when you are the least important, nobody's caring about you. Success! Training a full stack, remove some ports and adapters, and we just added CRUDs. Work well, no need for ports and adapters when the complexity is not there, as the charm, and we moved from KTOR and exposed SQL and some coroutines to a common Spring Boot, not reactive, incrementally. So we had both, and we were removing things as we were learning. And we had great things, like 4 people joined, several visible deliveries, we improved trust, we did trainings in React Native, teams that started delivering without handovers, with pain, but they were able to do that, and we were able to share how to do that within the organization. We were showing how to do migrations incrementally. And that's what you said, which is we focus on moving from here to here. That was the main thing that was enable everything else. Unpredicted outcome. 2 of the people with more experience left, and other teams, instead of doing the incremental migration, they just do freezing the code and the backlog, do everything at once, and then continue. For me, it was like, okay, it takes a little more than a month, it's okay, but I would like to not be the situation in the future. But the thing is that when you make decisions, people leave. And you need to live with this. That's it. And the thing is, like, sometimes you change the thing, people don't like the new situation, and they leave. That's the thing. And then I will go from when that was one team. Now I move when I was like head of engineering, and then moving cross teams, and where the more domain design and other things come. But what I want to learn, the learning from the previous one is, you need to focus on the system that creates the architecture and the outcome, because it's way easier to, if you don't fix the first, repeating the same mistakes is super fast. So you need to focus on this thing. So people first, dynamics, culture, changing that from the core. People will leave. Some people need to be let go. So that's the consequences when you need to do this kind of change. And here is when I move from one team, we start having this. Oh, one interesting thing that you learn. I have time. When you move from one to another, when there is a crisis, it's super common to move to the previous one, but not to the other. That's interesting. So when you stick to this one and you start moving to this one, if there is a crisis, you move to this one, but not never twice back. When you're a person like a senior, focus on helping maturing the team into getting here. If you are a leader, if your team is in this direction, you need to behave as this one. So you're pulling people in the maturity. So leads help people move into the next direction. Seniors help them mature and get the habits here. That was what I was sharing to my team. And the team was like, okay, that's the purpose. Okay, I know what I'm doing here. I know where to say no. So you're helping people to do this. The mess. So just imagine we have several incidents, impacts customer, and we are the B2C, and there is another another business unit that is the B2B. Same product, 2 business units, super split. Let's see what is on here. And just imagine that between the tribe, you need to organize for the front end. Just imagine that now you need to organize 2 business units with VPs of product, VPs of engineering, heads of whatever, heads of product, the teams. And now you need to say, okay, we need to change. You see how that works and just blows into the organization? And how hard it is to communicate when the teams here like, but we are this tribe. Who is that tribe? And you need to create relationships. So the distance is super long. So of course, takes time and there is friction because the convoy law, it's affecting you, right? So I started understanding. And the first thing it was sitting with the staff engineers and like, okay, tell me the architecture. They gave me this. And I asked them, what is core and what is not? So core domain from the end design is that the core is competitive advantage, is generally complex, complicated, change a lot, custom built, and then you have supporting, which is not a competitive advantage and not a competitive advantage, right? And usually complex and doesn't change that frequently. And you can buy it off the shelf or whatever. And I asked them, what is core and what is not? Of course, what we do is core. What we do not is not. Of course, makes total sense. Nobody wants to work in something which is not important. It's a lot of human beliefs there. So if I say that I'm working in something which is not core, which is my promotion, which is my impact to the organization, of course they need to say we are working on core. Otherwise, which is their impact, how they say, I need a rise on this because I'm impacting you in that. So of course they have this. The interesting part in this one is that when you receive an engineering diagram, it assumes order. There is no order in the code and so on, wherever, but we are unable to show that here. So that's the assumption of the people, assuming the order. But when you start asking a little bit, well, but this is mix, and then when you start to ask a couple of questions, then you have problems. And then I use this about the core domain charts from DDQ. It's quite interesting. They give you this. And they say, you have the business differentiator, you have the model complexity, these are just core, these are supporting, these are generic. Okay, let's put the same diagram here. Of course, building house, outsource, whatever. You give a tool, people fit the reality in the tool. Because you have a conception, they fit it, done. You need to come more. When you start situation, what we call situation awareness, where we are. Which is the user persona, which is the purpose, which is the competitive, it's truly the component here, what is the rest of this, the rest of the industry does this. You ask the question and people are like, let me see. Boom, everything is moved. So things are like, oh no, well, this that we outsourced, indeed was core, okay? Indeed we were doing this here in-house, it's also that. So we place it better, and we found out that we outsourced core things, we were custom building things that should be outsourced. Why? We were not using appropriate methods, because if this is agile and this is not that much agile, it means that this which needs to be agile was using another methodology. And something that doesn't need to be agile was using agile. Okay, so why this? This area is high uncertainty. If you need to be having success in the organization and failure is not that encouraged, this is failure mode. You don't want that. Therefore, they outsource it, the problem, to others. But this is well known, less uncertain. Therefore, if I use agile in the more certain domains, I will success more. It's you see how the situation evolves? Just people were hacking the system because, oh, I'm succeeding at this. But what mattered were that we were missing the key things. And then I started moving like, okay, we have 3 teams at least. We are connecting with others. Let's use context mapping. Who use context mapping in their company? Few people. Great, you will learn today. So context mapping on dependent design says that there are 3 different types of relationships, which is mutually dependent, which is we need to all the time work together. Free, we don't know the team and we don't know need to work with them. And then upstream, downstream. I will focus on this one today, which is the upstream will influence downstream. So if I am the upstream sharing an API and I change it, the downstream will be affected. And then the connection patterns. When you have an open host service, what you say is that you define an API that is consumed by the downstream. Open host, API consumed, easy. The conformist. When you consume an API from an open host, you say, I am a conformist. Therefore, what I do is I save or I use the model from the upstream. It can be, just imagine, you integrate with Slack. There is a library. If in your domain you have the Slack package thing, you are a conformist. It's okay. There's no problem, but you need to know that you're doing this. The anti-corruption layer, that's why ports and other are that famous, is that what you do is you consume, you change the model to an internal one. Therefore, when another change, you are not affected. Has desirable properties. If other change, I am not affected, great. And then you have one change that is an interesting one. Consumer supplier. The consumer, which is the downstream, gains influence over A. Hey, can you change me this? Hey, we need this new thing. And so on and forth. Okay. Did you pay attention? Because now comes questions. And now I will wait for sure. Just imagine that we have a consumer relationship with a supplier, which is A, and is open host. And this one wants to do a change, and this one says, no, don't do it. Which is the problem? It's a conformist. No, don't worry about the conformist or anti-corruption. But what is happening?
So A has a supplier relationship with B and C, so it needs to conform to both at the same time. And both teams can have competing priorities.
B is blocking A and C, competing priorities. So what he said is that when you have both competing priorities, sorry, thank you. So what the person said is both can competing priorities and they are blocking each other, and that's correct. So now this team C doesn't know B, but is affected by B. You are slowing down changing the organization with this. I will give another example, which is you have open host, you have a conformist, you have an anti-corruption layer, and then you have a consumer, which is consumer, supplier, and the corruption layer. What happens in this one? D influences C indirectly. This one, you see? Because you're a conformist of A, the ones that have the supplier consumer are influencing you. If you have a lot of them, this one will be like all the day changing things. It will be messy. You see? You see how using context maps can know how you are blocking your organization of change? Only with this, like, oh, I have this, and then you start realizing things. I will give one example of why people can say, then do anti-corruption layer. Why not? I will give you two examples. You have a downstream, you consume from a generic, it's open host, you're a conformist. There is a problem here? Who considers there is a problem? Sure. Who considers that there is no problem? Who is here smiling and that's it? No problem, because that's a generic, changing slowly, doesn't change often. Why protecting you from, if this doesn't change that often? You will protect yourself from SQL. It will not change. It didn't change for years. Well, with Postgres and JSON, yes. But why protecting from something that doesn't change? I will give you another example. You have this one, it's open host. You have a conformist, which is generic. There is a problem here.
I have a question. So how do you know what changes and what doesn't? Right? Because even MySQL can change.
Not that often.
Between versions.
Yes, but it's true. But the thing is that you need to know, it's a trade-off. If you want to protect to everything, you're losing speed. you need to assume something. And you start adding anti-corruption layers, it's a smell. So sometimes, I mean, you will protect yourself from Log4j. Well, Log4j, yes, because of, but another. So it's trade-offs all the time. You will protect yourself from Spring Boot without using Spring Boot. Like, it's strange, right? It can change between versions, but you need to trade-off. And the thing is that I would recommend you to trade off with a more stable component, like a database or similar, than the other way around, which is just imagine that you are more generic, more stable, and you start using more things that are dynamic. Here, yes, please use an anti-corruption layer. You need to understand how things change so you know which methods apply. Okay, I look at the team, everything is anti-corruption layer and supply consumer. When you have a lot of supply consumer, we as a developer say, oh, I need to protect myself. Therefore, I add anti-corruption layer everywhere. The thing is that this one is a social problem. This one is a technical solution, right? So you're missing. You have a social problem fixing with technical. Wrong. Well, if you don't have this option, good. But if not, try another thing, which is why is causing this? And this is like when you have an organization that introduces change, and that change impacts all the teams, because wherever, what you do as a team? I add anti-corruption layer everywhere because this one is messing with me. Okay, so social problem solved with technical things. We need to understand first the social to understand the architecture. Great. Here, that was the situation. I go to my tribe, I go to the other, and I focus on the core things that we were doing. Let's assume that they are core, and I focus here. So we had a problem, which is the more older is the organization, more custom-built components depending on each other that are changing fast. And the difference between integrating with a generic is that this gives you speed. It's a stable, works, speed. When you start depending on things that change fast, it slows you down. And the purpose of this is that you need to move fast. So what is the best way to move fast? Integrating with generic supplier, this part of the thing. This gives you speed, that one not. So when the more times you are in the organization, more of these components exist, and you need to do an effort to move them in that direction, right? So let's see what were happening there and why there are all of them. And here, we have, I will call B app, B API, so duplicated, employees, B web, mutual dependency. Team B, team H. Okay. There was a wall called business unit, business unit. Spain and Brazil, full Brazil. So there is organizational barrier and language. No, sorry, this one was also in Spain, but it started in Brazil. Yes, and also the where it comes from. So there is this huge, and this is, you can see how the things are duplicated. Do you think that this one implemented the same requirements the same way, with the same assumptions? No way. If you have here the leadership is the same, but here the leadership changed all the time, this thing evolved differently than this one. And the synchronization between the assumptions between these two was not existent. So you are in different paths, and that was true, right? And I want to understand what was the, who knows cognitive load thing? Who can define cognitive load? It's super, it's super hard. Let's say the cognitive load is how you perceive your current situation. Where is your pain? So the thing is that if I ask you which is cognitive load, you will say it's high, it's low. Why? Well, it's hard, but we all perceive which is core cognitive load in our day-to-day. When I ask them about the 4 areas, they mainly focus on building and testing and deploying. This was fine, but operating, remember the context, was failing all the time between things. It was super difficult to operate these systems. Why this one was green? Because we have a platform team giving you an internal development platform with Kubernetes and everything super like, you do this and then you have a system running. Super easy. This one in the mobile was hardish and building was also fine. Okay, operating is the mess. How we solve this? So changes are happening. Remember this. Why if there is change all the time happening and you have an anti-corruption layer, why building is not a problem? It's interesting. If you have all the time changing anti-corruption layer and impacting everyone, because building is not bad. Because the people are used to it. It's hard, but you're used. Okay, it's not my pain. This one, yes, I need to open the database, understanding what is going on, close a ticket. The building is like, I am enjoying building, even though it's not the best situation, but people were enjoying it. Just imagine that you're receiving 3 tickets per day that you need to close manually. Very bad. So this is giving you a clue about what's going on. I have this. I said, okay, what do we do? When usually the organization worked, and this we see in the previous years, is that when there's pain and people don't go faster, we add more people. And all the time it's like, oh, this is going slow. Add more people, add more people. Recession, remove people, remove people. Right, it's like, oh my God, that's how this works. And I hope that what I will share with you will help in your current situation that you are in and your company had to lay off and now you're some more work. Some tools to absorb the work in a different way that you are able to have more domain scope, let's say. That's what we did, indeed. So, again, what I do, I remove handovers. So I wanted to remove handovers between business units, and in order to remove the cognitive load and the pains and stabilizing the system, I added a platform team. So now the team B owned B2B and B2C, and we dedicate a platform to reduce the B cognitive load exclusively. And I only for the team. The thing is that if you say, oh my God, I have a lot of problems, I have a lot of things, and I give you, okay, if in order to you have less problems, you will have more service to own. It's super counterintuitive. You say like, what? I'm having all these problems, and you give me 2 more repos, 2 more user journeys, and all this context. What the hell? But they say, okay, I will bet on all these pains that you have with operating. If I remove them enough, you will be able to handle that. Like, oh, well, yes, I am dedicating maybe 12 hours a week on fixing things on production. Maybe, yes. If you remove that, okay, I bet. You need to connect. This was a human thing. You see, all the time is humans. And the thing is that if you give something, but it needs to be balanced. They work together. It's not like you have bets. I want this. Desires. I want an API. I want this. Yes, of course. No. You have only 2, and it's, I will say, no more than 2, no more than 3. It's super hard to make 2 happen, and a lot of execution in parallel to know how to make this happen. So, which was the current actions? We said we had this situation which was not a platform team, was like a core team, but was doing the old way about platforms, which is I own everything, I build for a year, and when I finish, you can use it. Guess what? It's hard. So I said we will. Sorry, this is a platform team. They are like streamline teams or product teams. This is how I mark collaboration. It means that they talk it all the time, and this that they consume the APIs that they created. This is from team topologies. I said, okay, what I will do is I will remove we will somehow just stop this platform thinking. We will not do anymore. So, Aleix, you're telling me that you stop it at 1 year development with all the money? Yes. Okay, that's a bet that I had. I said, and now, instead of solving for all the tribe, we only will do for team B. You mean that you will stop team C and team A? Yes, we will not do anything for these 2 teams because we need to release at least 1 product. Okay, are you sure? Well, let's bet. And this one will be in constant collaboration. Indeed, what we did was moving people from team B to the problem team because they have the context of both, and they had another mission, but at least they start with the same context and they know the pains, which is great, starting. And their mission was, in order to be fast, systems needs to be here, you will detect the ones that are supportive, and you will be moving them here. You see? By having a team that focuses on stabilizing and not changing much, and giving speed to the others. So platform team, moving things to the supportive, that was my bet. So that, in the future, I want you to stop collaborating. There is a problem in the industry which is collaboration and collaboration and collaboration. Collaboration adds richness. We need to collaborate to stop collaborating. Okay, so it's like, why is that Amazon has this thing about APIs? Because it works. So you want to work with team B, so in the future, you don't need to work together anymore. So, you don't talk, you focus on your thing. So that in the future, people start consuming the API as a service, and they don't need to start talking all the time about their needs. So I give them a platform as a product, so that people go faster without the need of collaboration. So I was removing all the time handoffs, collaboration. It was so muy pesado. So, and here was a focus. All of that is because they had this mutual dependency. I want to remove it. I want to move this one and this one into there. And I don't think that'll really happen at the end, but that was the vision. And that was the thing. So now that team owned the full user journey, B2B and B2C. It should have gone like that model working, but I think it never happened. But what's the vision? And now I don't have two VPs on two anything. Now, if I change the user journey for the product, this thing has all the context, knows all the things, knows all the business model. It just is able to implement change fast. But now you have legacy code. It's not working. This team, of course, don't fully want it to work here because they had other things. The code was messy, so it requires time to the adoption. So what I learned is that adding more teams increases communication complexity. Okay, so if I start understanding the context map, the cognitive load, the flow of change, you took the counterintuitive decision of increasing the team scope. That was before the recession, right? But we were start doing this. So I was increasing the team scope of teams by adding them platforms, teams of 3 people. The platforms doesn't need to be 10 people, 3 people, very focused. So we work here. So an enabling team, meanwhile the platform gives you a product, an enabling team, what they do is they come to a team and they identify a capability gap or a skill gap, and they fix it. Just remember that we were doing like trainings on React Native, trainings on this, trainings on event modeling, all of that. It was done by enabling teams that we mainly 2 people. So that people were able to upskill themselves and handle more domain scope. Why I wanted to give you this example? Because maybe in your organization you are suffering from giving you more scope, but without understanding of the context, with the purpose about understanding the cognitive load and the domain, which maybe it's giving you more suffering. So if you are in the situation, I will share the slides later, recommend you like, okay, how we can have more scope, but in a smart way that takes into account communication, handovers, team domain, and platform teams. That was the end. So that team was, before I left, had this situation which we consumed 3 platforms. One focused on deployment, CI, observability, one mobile platform about deployment testing, components, delivery. A Tribe platform which is about know your customer, accounts, transactions, and then the streamlining team, which we had an enabling team, which was a mix of engineering and product, because when you are missing the product owners or the B level or BP level, we wanted them like, hey, we want to solve this. How can we know about the client? And we started using them instead of handovering requirements into involving them into the flow of change, right? So why this team were able to have that amount of scope? Because of we had 3 different platforms focusing on 3 different areas. They were not, oh, we have a platform team, do everything. No, this was Kubernetes, this was React Native, and this one was the microservice that before was owned by anyone, coherent, stable, and so on and so forth. That's why this one was able to somehow deliver. I am not sure if they had a low cognitive load. I'm sure they had a reasonable cognitive load or high, but at least were able to handle all the flows in a good shape. Okay, the person said yes. Okay, I'll recap. So what you need to come. So our strategy is adaptive. We will innovate to our customers using domain technologies, Kubernetes, and ChatGPT, and everyone back to the office. That is I think that some people, are very good leaders in the industry, are doing that. That is because they know, just follow their lead, and sadly we do everything by mirroring others. Don't do that. Because other companies returning people to the office, it doesn't mean it applies to your context. So sadly, everyone is doing like by mirroring strategy. So that the main purpose of this is to make you like thinking and giving you tools. This is a quote that I really like, which is, we're born in a cow's field, and I was able to navigate because other people give me the books and the knowledge so that I was able to do engineering strategy in a different way. And my hope is that this talk to you all, hope as a, okay, I was lost in the chaos, and now I know, okay, I know a little about this, I know a little about that. When I find the problem in my organization, I know where to start. That is the purpose of the talk. And yes, you can follow me in my blog that I talk about all these things. I have also a repository with a lot of links about what people do about engineering strategy. I'm collecting them all. Please contribute because I am able to find everything, but I like that people keep publishing about this. And thank you all. The question was, hey, with the domain chart, there is a lot of similarities with Warley mapping. That was in purpose or not? My answer is yes. In the previous one that I tried, I found that explaining Warley maps in a very constraint was so hard, and I found that with using the same mindset with that chart, it gives you the same idea without introducing you Warley mapping, which is an overkill. So, so yes, it's aligned and it's on purpose. Yes.
Thank you. Thanks. I think you brought a lot of things for us to go deep because you were touching like many strategic things. One more tactic question. What is the context of that thing? What is the size? In the last slide, you mentioned that you have only one streamline team. Is only one streamline team, or you have?
No, there were more. So I mean, here you have the others. I think here were 6 people, half in Spain and other people in Brazil. This I think was mainly Spain, full Brazil, and here maybe we have like 4 people. Here were 3 teams inside this one, because everyone focused on one thing, but we consider them as a group and we just push them. So just imagine here like 6, 3 or 4, 6, and here like maybe 20 people. And the question was, because I forgot again, which is the team size of each team, so how many people we have. And here we have 3 more teams. The other was like 12 people, and the third were externalized and were like 10 more people. But we're not consuming, we're consuming these 2. I started to consume this one team, and the other didn't start consuming anything. So that's where I was. And the good thing is that we succeed releasing that product and evolving it and so on and so forth, and the others didn't. The good thing is that that product gave enough money, so the leadership didn't complain much. So that also was a bet. So that was the team size. The question is, how do you do when people place it wrongly, or do you know that that domain is not in the right place, and people know like it's in other, and there is like a lie? I would say that people don't tend to lie, but they have different reality. And what I like from Warley mapping is that there are people that have hidden agendas. Yeah, I want to do this, but I didn't have that people. I didn't find them in all my career. So it's more usually a thing about perception. And when I had like think about situation awareness, is like doing questions. What I like about these charts and Warley mapping and other thing is that you can put it in one place and say, why is here? And you're not challenging the person, because if they say like, well, you're wrong, it's like you start defensive mode, and so you say like, okay, why is here? And I think it's here, but because of this, what do you think? And you start the conversation. But I focus. Why use all of this visual representation? Because instead of fighting us, we fight against the thing. And the good thing about remote is that moving thing to another place is free. Right? It's like you do this. Sometimes it's too much free. But because in person, you need to do this, and when you move something, it's more visual when you are and it has some benefits. But the good thing is it's a conversation, and the important part is like, I want to understand you. I focus on understanding the other person versus trying to fit my business model. So I always assume that I need to learn more, and making the questions is what matters to come to this conclusion about, okay, then I can do this decision based on that assumption. If we held it true, then I can make these decisions. When I do the decisions and when I learn that it's not true, then I adapt the map or the diagram, and then I do another decision. Okay.
Another question related to the Warley mapping. I was wondering how often do you do workshops? Because we want to be agile, we want to adapt to things, but I mean, also keeping some kind of stability.
Yeah.
At some point, like how
In that company, once every no, I will focus. In that company, once every 3 months, we had a lean inception that comes with the workshops about engineering strategy, and then it's continuous. It's informal. So the first one are formal, deliberate strategy, and then through the weekend, through the quarter, we just do the immersion strategy. Like you talk, and then you go back to the mirror and say, "This is true. No, this changed. Okay," and then you keep updating and having the immersion. But the good thing about the immersion, it is informal. Informal is super powerful. Use the informality to drive change. Because when you do things formal, that's bureaucracy. You need bureaucracy, but not too much. So if you don't need bureaucracy, don't use it. Introduce change differently. So that is my recommendation. And we need to close, but I will be outside if you have any other question. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for coming.